What's up, guys? Happy Thursday. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. I'm Korea. It's October 17th here, obviously, on this Thursday. We have some football today. We have I think, the ugliest Thursday night game of the year. Saints are so depleted injury-wise. Noah Olave, Shaheed probably going on IR. Derek Carr obviously injured with that oblique injury. So it's not going to be pretty. Obviously, for the Broncos, Surtain is also injured. So it's you're missing a lot of key guys, missing a lot of key stars, I should say, for that Thursday night game. So we'll have another Thursday night game we're going to get into later. But first, obviously, a quick recap of how we did back on Monday. And first, obviously, it was the battle between R and I came out on the losing side. But I'm going to complain for a little bit because I usually don't complain. Ari, that was one of the worst officiated games I have watched in my watching primetime. That was horrible to watch. And yes, the Jets made so many mistakes, not really closing drives, and obviously it was pretty back and forth. But at some point, the referees were making this game about how they were going to dictate it and not how the players were. And that's
just like it's bad when even Aaron Rodgers is saying that the roughing the passer called on him was not roughing the passer, and then obviously he said the one on the one they called for John on the other end wasn't roughing the passer either. It's bad when even the player is saying it's not the call on himself.
Yeah, I don't usually blame the refs, but I mean, in this case, the refs just absolutely. I mean, there was one pass interference in the first quarter where the ball wasn't catchable, but they called it. And then in the fourth quarter, there was a PI that was called, but the ball was. You're just thinking so you call this one a PI, but you don't call the one back. And it's just. But I mean, look, Greg Zuerlein missed a couple field goals. It was just an ugly game. Jets lost, but obviously, I don't really think the Jets really lost this week per se, because next morning Devontae Adams comes knocking on the door. So I feel like it was a tough loss. Obviously, we saw Mike Williams had that tough drop, obviously leading to the interception, and I kind of feel bad for Mike Williams. Great mojo, I guess, per se. He never really got into a groove with Aaron Rodgers, and you can say maybe it's because it's a new team, new quarterback, new system, but at the same time, some of those you're gonna that one that went right into his chest and he dropped, you're gonna have that's just standard. So you can blame whatever you want to blame, but at the end of the day, Jets got the L. I'm not too disappointed about it. I thought it was it was a close game, so I knew it was going to be close. I knew it was probably going to come down to, obviously, unfortunately, the refs, it came down to the refs, but I knew it was going to come down to a field goal or, a one-possession game, and that's pretty much what it was. So, obviously, the Bills escaped with a win. So, Ari, I'll let you elate over your Bills win on Monday night.
Oh, yeah, obviously, it was an ugly game, but I took it after some of my tough losses over the weekend, from Saturday and Sunday, so I needed that one pretty badly, but in one sense, the refs were bad, but in the other sense, how often are you going to get a Hail Mary at the end of the first half? Like that go your way, and then both kickers were terrible. The Bills signed, they signed Lucas Haversick, who went to U of A, so shout out to him. I think Bass was still the starter, but at least added some competition, and I don't think the Jets signed the kicker, but that was still a really, really bad performance by Zuerlein. I think it was back-to-back doinks in the second half. And then Bass had probably the worst extra point in the history of the NFL in the first half, as well as a missed field goal. So definitely an ugly game all around. But even the Bills traded for Amari Cooper, so both teams got a wide receiver the next day. But yeah, so Sunday night should be interesting because we're probably going to get the Devontae Adams, debut with the Jets, as well as potentially Russell Wilson's first start with the Steelers. So a lot of storylines in that game Sunday night.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously, great win for the Bills. You mentioned it. I even forgot, that lucky Hail Mary that I thought was a drop by Lazard, but obviously went right into his chest. So obviously gave the Jets, I thought they gave the Jets momentum, and it kind of did, but at the same time it kind of didn't. You mentioned Tyler Bass with one of the worst extra points I've seen. But I know the broadcast was talking about how the wind in that particular side of the stadium was just really bad, and we saw a couple of missed kicks as well from Greg Zuerlein, on that side as well. But I mean, I don't know what Tyler Bass was doing there. But anyways, Bills got the win, so obviously that was great for you. Obviously, I know you had a tough weekend, so great to end the week on a positive note there. Obviously, me unfortunate loss, but obviously you're going to bounce back tonight. We got a Thursday night football game, well, 2 for college here. But first, I'm going to a little bit of a same game teaser here. I know Ari and I are kind of on the same side here, but I'm teasing first Boston College up from about 7 or 7.5. Tease them up 6 points to about 13.5, and then I'm teasing it under from up 48.5 points all the way up to 54.5. It's minus 120 right now here on DraftKings, and I'm just more backing that this is going to be a close game, right? You look at you look at the Boston College Eagles, right? Boston College, right? They're more of a ground-heavy team. It's more of the dual threat action with Castellanos, right? We know he can run the ball. That obviously kind of coincides with this under. I'm also backing Boston College to keep this game close, right? I think with their defense, I think they can make this game interesting on the road here. They're great against the run, and that's kind of where VTech kind of leans to. They are more of a run-heavy team, and when you force Kyron Drones to throw, look, I'm sorry. I know there's some VTech fans out there. Kyron Drones is the definition of mid. This dude is so mid. This dude is a mid quarterback in the air. He doesn't throw for over 200 yards a game. He's a mid runner. He doesn't run for over 50 times because he gets sacked all the time. Look, he's not great, right? He's not over the moon, but I think that in this matchup, I think it's a really bad matchup because you look at Boston College, right? Like I said, better against the ground. They're 25th in run defense in the nation, which is really good. They really force you to throw, right? And I think this is a similar matchup to that Michigan State game, right? Both teams, in terms of both, they like to run the football, a little bit of turnover heavy for both teams, but I'm just backing this under here. As I know Ari's going to allude to it in a little bit, but I know obviously BC is going to depend on the run game, and Virginia Tech, that's how they get their offense going with the dual third action as well with Kyron Drones. But in this game, I just think it's going to be close. It's going to be low scoring. That's why I'm just teasing both of these totals up here and the spread here. I'm teasing Boston College. I think they can potentially be a live dog, but I don't really like the way that line's moving. Obviously, a lot of steam toward Virginia Tech, so I'm going to tease Boston College up for about from 7.5 to 13.5, and then the under as well, just to be a little bit on the safe side. I do like the regular under, as Ari will probably allude to soon, but I do like the regular under as well. Like I said, I think it's going to be a low scoring game. So that's my one play for today. Just teasing Boston College up from 7.5 to 13.5, along with that total for a same game teaser up to 54.5 from 48.5. That's minus 120 on DraftKings. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, and I think Boston College can make this close. I think Boston College could be a live dog potentially. We'll see how things go in the first quarter, but I think it's going to be a low scoring game. Ari, why do you think it's going to be a low scoring game today?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even talk about this before, and we're essentially on the same side here. I mean, you look at, like it's essentially a fade of both offenses. I mean, I think Virginia Tech wins, but I agree that it could be close. I mean, you look at Boston College, and the last 4 games for them have went under this line, and the only game that went over this line on their season was a 56-0 win over Duquesne, which obviously it's Duquesne. And then on the other side, Virginia Tech, obviously they had a lot of hype going into the year, returning a lot of production from last year. It's been obviously disappointing this season, but still their defense has still been very good outside of the Miami game. But Miami, has one of the best offenses in the country. Boston College does not. Like you said, they want to run the ball. Castellanos is, inconsistent as a passer, wants to run the ball. So that helps the clock, obviously. Virginia Tech's strength is their defense, so that helps that. And then, Boston College's defense has been good. I don't know if they're like elite or anything, but like you said, with Jones as a passer, I'm not extremely worried about him letting up the scoreboard. On the other side, I think they're going to want to run the ball as well. So I see a scrappy one possession, kind of lower scoring game, like a 24-17, something along those lines. So yeah, I'm essentially fading both offenses to an extent. I think Virginia Tech will still get something on offense going probably, but not to the point where this total goes over. And then mostly just backing Virginia Tech's defense to do what they've been doing for most of the season as well.
Yeah, you mentioned fading both offenses here. Both offenses kind of run similarly, and you look at BC, obviously dual threat action with Castellanos, obviously on the ground, not really the strongest in the air. You look at Virginia Tech, same way. Obviously, Drone's a lot more of a runner. Not really a good passer. In terms of the defenses, obviously BC, obviously one of the better defenses as well. They don't really let a lot of points up. They stop the run. And then same for VT, obviously. They are a very good defense, obviously outside of that Miami game. But you mentioned, obviously, Miami, number one passing team in the country. So you can't really say too much about that, obviously. And they kept that game close, obviously. So, and they do force turnovers. So that's the one thing about Virginia Tech. They do force a lot of turnovers as well. So I think, obviously, in this game, I think it'd be very low scoring. Yeah, I like that score, like 24-17, maybe like a 23-20 type ball game where we both win as well for that. So there it is. Obviously, Ari's full game under with Boston College, Virginia Tech, full game under 48.5. As I said in my teaser, as I said, I like the full game under as well. So we're pretty much on that same play, but I'm just teasing Boston College up as well from 7.5 up to 14.5. I think it's going to be a very close game and kind of coincides, with if this game's going to be low scoring, I think Boston College can keep this one close with their defense, as well as Virginia Tech, obviously one of the better defensive teams in the ACC. So that's my play, teasing, Boston College up 6 points. I've been teasing the under up from the regular total for 48 up to 54. That's minus 120. You can find both of these plays, of course, on our Twitter below, AKP Sports Talk. We'll have our full card for today posted momentarily. That's going to do it for this episode. Of course, tomorrow we have another full weekend of college football and NFL. We'll have our best bets for the entire weekend coming up soon. And don't forget, next week, we got NBA back. I know you guys have been waiting for the NBA, obviously, tip-off on Tuesday. We got a couple games, obviously, now with the preseason wrapping up tomorrow. So tune into that next week as well. But we'll be back tomorrow for another episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.